Is it frustrating that the majority of questions you get are now anabolic steroid based? It's definitely not annoying. The only thing that can be annoying from it is if it's taking away from my work as an athlete. People saying, oh, you're only going to do this now because you're on gear. Fuck you. No, it's not. I worked my bollocks off for a long time. But in terms of actually asking about questions about anabolics, nah, because I'm the same. You know, when I was natural, if someone was as open as me, for example, TM Cycles, when I first, was getting to know him, I could ask him any question I wanted to. Whenever we met up, I asked him stupid questions, smart questions, ridiculous questions, funny questions, like questions that I generally have to know as a natural athlete. And I'm sure there's so many people out there who are natural, and just want to ask these questions. I'm the guy. Ask me the questions. What are your side effects? How does it feel to inject? That's fine. Whatever. I'm here to educate, and to share my experience. So for me to be pissed off at me sharing my experience, because this is pretty much the focal point of my life right now, is to be expected. However, I am sure when I've been on gear for a long time, whatever, a year, 2 years down the line, I'm sure these questions will get a little bit smaller and it won't be entirely about anabolics. Fingers crossed. Touch wood. What are your thoughts on training fasted in the morning before work? What's the best way to approach it? So I have no problem with training fasted, because you still have stored carbohydrates from the night before. Obviously, depending on what your diet is like. In my opinion, if you always train fasted in the morning before work or something, for example, I would make sure you have a decent carbohydrate meal pre-bed, so you're kind of fueling yourself up for that workout. Otherwise, it won't really make a difference. The be-all and end-all is calories in versus calories out. You might not want to hear that, but that is the way. Optimal is a different word versus actually what's going on. But yeah, no real opinion. You can do that if you want to do it. If it works out for your lifestyle and you can go to the gym, that's better than not making it work at all. How do you decide what carbohydrate sources you consume during certain parts of the day? For example, my peri-workout window. Is it mainly based on digestion? So my whole diet is based on digestion. I want to have optimal assimilation of macronutrients, or my macronutrient partitioning to be the best it can. So that means that we do pick more carbohydrates around our workout. Why? Because we have an immediate demand for it when we train. We need carbohydrates to train. It's the most optimal source of energy for us to train. And once we've depleted those stores, once we've got some muscle breakdown, we then need to replenish glycogen stores as fast as possible. Not essential, again, not essential, but optimal to have a higher amount of carbohydrates post-workout. And if you were to have higher GI carbs, for example, the sugars, that is when you would have them, because you have a better rate of absorption. You will have more demand for the carbohydrates then, so you would have them post-workout. Otherwise, I'm pretty much picking slow digesting carbs, low GI carbs, sweet potatoes, whole grains, rices, things like that. Generally for satiety, so I don't get too hungry. I don't need any crazy insulin spikes that sugar will give you. Yes, they will go up, but they will come back down. I know people think that carbohydrates and sugar is the devil. It's not, as long as you can manage your glucose and glucose disposal essentially in your body. It's not too worrisome. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just making smart choices always. The typical healthy diet that you can think of, that's what I'm eating. Lots of vegetables, good carbs, good proteins, good fats. I don't really eat shit in general. Maybe once in a blue moon. You ever work out stoned? Yes, plenty of times. During university, I used to smoke, have a pre-workout, then I'd go train. There is something very nice about training high. I feel like you get a very good connection to your muscles. However, in my old age, 25 years old, I stopped doing that. I don't have the need to do that. My training focus and intensity needs to be at an absolute peak. And in my opinion, from experience, while it doesn't make too much difference, right now, because I train early, like 10 o'clock, 9:30, I don't want to be waking up, rolling a joint, smoking a joint just to go train, like for that performance benefit. I don't think there is a significant performance benefit to be smoking that early in the day. So I I don't do it. Post-workout at the moment. How many days does this off-season continue? Officially 16 weeks out from prep. I can't wait, Captain. I can't wait. I'm like a kid on Christmas. It's nearly Christmas as well. I can't wait. I've been thinking about prep since the moment I stepped off stage. You know, people say, oh, I can't wait for the off-season. I couldn't wait to prep again because I knew I just can't wait to bring better and better and better every single time. 16 weeks until competition date. I will be competing on either the 21st of July or the 17th of August, maybe the early August, and then definitely in the first 2 weeks of September for PCA. So those are the dates. Put them in your diaries. We're fucking going for it. Do you intermittent fast while bulking? If yes, why? Yes, I do. I do it on my rest days. I go for a 16-hour fast. Most of the fasting benefits that have been shown actually come from being hypocaloric. Hypocaloric. So being in a deficit can actually give you the same benefits that fasting would. You know, sort of pancreatal rest from insulin production, digestive rest from just food in general, generally keeping insulin levels lower, less time with food in your stomach can actually help your microbiome as well. But generally those same sort of intermittent fasting benefits can come from a hypocaloric diet. So if you're in a deficit, I wouldn't worry too much about the intermittent fasting. However, intermittent fasting does have its benefits, the ones that I just said. But you will adapt. We are adaptation machines. You've probably heard me say about 1 million times on this channel, we are adaptation machines. And if we constantly intermittent fast every single day, 16, 20-hour fast, whatever it is, your body's gonna reap those initial benefits for the first couple of weeks. You're gonna feel great, and then your body's gonna adapt, you know? So actually irregular intermittent fasting is probably more beneficial, just the same as irregular dieting, irregular hypocaloric periods, because you're going to reap these benefits and you're actually going to get those benefits from fasting. But right now in the off season, why it makes sense to do that is because it gives me a 16-hour window where I'm not eating, considering, you know, at times I'm up towards 5,000 calories a day, clean food, regular carb servings. You know, insulin's always up, pancreas is always producing insulin. It makes sense for me to spend some time without that to maximize my insulin sensitivity, to maximize my digestive tract, because I'm always got food and I'm always digesting, you know, so actually having a little bit of time away can just optimize that. So I think it's a very good idea to keep intermittent fasting in, especially when calories get high. Does CBD affect REM sleep? So from the research that I know, it hasn't and it doesn't. However, THC will affect REM sleep. So, you know, when you dream, this is essentially REM sleep, or your dreaming state sleep, which is kind of like you're not partially awake, but you're in between the awake world and the asleep world, as we would call it. And I know THC can actually stifle that a little bit, which is why if you do stop smoking, if you are a smoker, you have those crazy dreams because you're just trying to play catch up on REM sleep. But CBD actually doesn't have that effect, has no psychosomatic effects. Is that the right word? Yeah. What would you say your body fat set point is, and how did you feel when you surpassed this in the past? I'm going to put a picture up on screen right now. I think this is pretty much where my body is, my happy medium. I'm pretty thick, pretty lean at the same time. You know, I'm not overweight. I think this is just where my body likes to be. This is when I'm natural. This is around 97 kilos ish. This makes me not feel too heavy, makes me feel great, good aerobic capacity, not too high body fat, good digestion, all that kind of stuff. And when you pass it, exactly the opposite. Digestion can get a little bit poor. Bear in mind, I'm optimizing everything, and I'd have to push it very, very hard to get these effects. But general fatigue, lack of aerobic capacity, digestive problems, maybe high blood glucose, all these kind of things can start elevating once you start pushing your body up high. But you do need to do it. Some opinions on high intensity cardio such as boxing while on a cut. Could it be implemented at the start or not at all? Personally, if you're focused on bodybuilding, I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't do high intensity interval training of any kind. Why? Because it's pretty damn taxing on your body and on the actual muscles. Like if you're doing sprints on a bike, and you've not done them before, I can guarantee you're going to get DOMs in your legs. But if we're focused on training and maximizing training performance, it would make sense to do like a steady state, something that has less impact on the body, less impact on the joints, less impact on the musculature system, like an incline walk, like a steady bike, like a Stairmaster type thing. That's my opinion on it. This question is based around surgeries and injuries. So if you have a big injury, this guy had a surgery, no food, no training, lost a lot of size, and then he said, how long did it take you to get back to your normal size? So for those of you guys that don't know, I can't remember the month now, but earlier in the year I had my appendix out, had appendicitis, and I had to get it out. It was a fucking nightmare. I couldn't eat anything. I could barely drink for like 4 days, 3-4 days. And then when I could eat, I could only eat like horrible foods that my body was craving. And very, very minimum amounts. So it took me about a week to start eating properly. So as you can imagine, I lost like 5-6 kilos. Yeah, some muscle went. Yeah, I didn't train. But honestly, once I reversed out of that very, very slowly, I felt so good. Like so good. Felt leaner. I felt bigger. And guys, muscle memory is a real thing. So if you do have a couple months off for whatever reason, I can guarantee that will come back very, very quickly. It's like, for example, if any of you guys follow Men's Physique, if you saw Jeremy Buendia when he got his pec tear and he got his pec disattached, whatever it is, he got it reconnected in surgery. You saw him, he was natty, he was tiny, he was small as fuck. You wouldn't even look twice if you saw him on the street. And then you see him 10 weeks later, boom. Even with all the drugs in the world, muscle memory played a huge part in that. So muscle memory is a real thing. So don't get too disheartened when these things happen. Just make a good plan and ease yourself back in, and you will rebound very, very well. Sorry to be a big fucking dry dick nerd. That's the first sentence of this question. But with the probable negative effect on high protein diets, especially higher leucine diets, having longevity, are you concerned by the long-term consequences of the bodybuilding diet? So, from what I've read, actually high protein diet doesn't have too much effect on your body in terms of liver and kidney and all that kind of stuff. However, there is no two ways about it. Force feeding yourself, going into a hypercaloric state where your body's screaming for food is not healthy. Will it have repercussions? Maybe, but I'm also very confident in the human body and what the human body can do. And I'm very confident that you could recover from these. It's like a temporary pain for a long-term success. I think that's the way I see these things. You know, for example, taking steroids. Taking steroids is a short-term pain for a long-term plan, a long-term success to take over, essentially. So all of these things you've got to think about investing. Bodybuilding is not a healthy sport. Football at a high level is not a healthy sport. Rugby at a high level is not a healthy sport. None of these things are healthy sports. So I'd worry about, if you're going to worry about diet, you also got to worry about your joints. You've also got to worry about this, and this. The best you can do is just manage all that. You know, take time off when you need it, supplement right, rest right, recover right. All these things, which I've got in place, which I do have in place, and you guys would know that I have in place, to essentially minimize any kind of damage that I can do. And I think that's probably what pro footballers do. It's probably what pro tennis players do. You know, you think about the amount of times the pro tennis player hit his racket, you tell me he's not going to get tennis elbow. So yeah, I like to think about it like that. It's not necessarily bodybuilding is the demon. I just think high level performance in sports is definitely a problem in general. What do you consider to be the most optimal safe options in terms of beginning a cycle? Dosages, compounds, hormones in terms of a surplus, or vice versa, a constant prep diet. So in my opinion, you should always start low. You don't know what the new compound is going to do to you. I had one guy comment on my videos the other day, hopefully you're watching, he said he's going to start with Winstrol. I explained why that would be a bad decision. Winstrol and testosterone, sorry. I explained why bringing in another compound, especially something that's like in oral form, which is quite harsh in your lipid profile, doesn't make sense in your first ever cycle. For one, you are hyper responsive regardless of how responsive you actually are to anabolics. you're going to be hyper responsive to an anabolic steroid. It's going to make you grow faster, get stronger, get bigger, and recover better. Like, that is literally what it is going to do. It's not a gimmick, guys. Like, it's really going to work. So I don't know why you would want to use more than one compound when one compound is going to fucking blow you up, and also a safer compound like testosterone, which we naturally have. Putting it in exogenously generally has less negatives, and you can actually do, you know, decent testosterone doses. There's a reason why they do TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, when people get low, because it's not really that harmful as long as your estrogen, prolactin, your estradiol 17 is all in check, you know. And actually getting these blood tests, getting regular blood tests to see where you are and see how you're fluctuating or not fluctuating, is absolutely paramount throughout. Too many people are taking these cycles, getting 8 weeks in, and then saying, oh, I'm going to try this now. Like, you don't even know what that 8 weeks did. You don't know if it's doubled your testosterone, tripled your testosterone. You know, it's crazy. If 250 milligrams of testosterone, like I'm taking, is going to give me triple the ability to gain muscle, why would I jump straight to 8 or 9 times the ability to gain muscle? You know, if I'm going to do this for the long term, which I would hope, if you're going to take steroids, is for the long term, because there's no short term place for steroids, in my opinion. Obviously, your opinion can be different to mine, but you've got to think, like, all these different compounds are tools. They're now tools in your toolkit. Why would you want to use as many tools as you can at the start? You'd want to start with the minimum and just slowly add in and slowly add in and slowly add in, and just making sure you get blood tests, make sure you're in the right position. If you're not optimizing sleep, nutrition, recovery, training, I wouldn't even fucking dream of it, because you can get so much benefit out of doing those. So I'd think about those first. Fuck me, this is a long video. What age did you start bunning, and do your parents know or care? So I started when I was 18 or 19. I think 18 I was. So there's actually a lot of research into smoking cannabis pre-18 and how much of a negative impact that can have on cognitive function and cognitive progression. So I'd highly recommend any of these kids here listening to me talk about this kind of stuff, don't even think about it before 18, because you can fuck your life up big time. You can increase your chances of anxiety, paranoia, schizophrenia. All of these things will increase if you're doing this when your brain is at an immature age. It's just not a good scenario. So I started when I was like 18, 19. My parents probably knew by the time I was 22. They probably knew by then, because I've been to Amsterdam a few times. They kind of caught on. My dad cares, but he's got no leg to stand on because he drinks every day, so fuck him. My mum definitely cares. Like, both my parents care because they care for my well-being, and they obviously, they see, in the old school mentality, they see, oh, you're smoking cannabis, that's really bad, it's a drug. But obviously, new school mentality, we've got so much research into cannabis, THC, CBD, cannabidiols, endocannabinoid system, all that kind of stuff. So my mum doesn't bat an eyelid. Really, nah, she cares. She definitely cares. But she does. Like, I can do what I want. I'm 25 years old, you know. And that is the end of the Q&A. The second part of the Q&A. Very, very long videos. I know. I appreciate it, but I'm very happy to get so much information over 2 videos. Obviously, normally we pick 1 or 2 topics per video. This allows me to get a lot of topics, a lot of information out there. Pretty good. Had a little bit of an experience with my nipples. Will be in the next video. Peace, everybody. See ya.